watching the nation's best college newscast. 11 News at Noon starts now.
Come, come, ye saints. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints filled the streets of downtown Salt Lake City on their way to General Conference.
Shutdown opinions, what Americans really think about the government shutdown.
And Chinese typhoon. Wind and rain bombards eastern China, forcing many to duck for cover.
I'm Mark Chalice.
And I'm Randall Vaudry. Welcome to 11 News at Noon. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints spent much of their weekend watching the church's General Conference.
That's right, and those members had a lot to take in. Latter-day Saint leaders stressed enduring to the end, keeping covenants, and the role of women in the church. 11 News reporter Aubrey Jones attended the conference sessions. Aubrey, what did these church leaders, what did they emphasize?
Well, in the past, they've talked a lot about sharing the gospel with others, but this conference, they talked a lot more about converting yourself. Leaders offered counsel to members to help them grow personally so they can share the gospel with others. Conference speakers focused on helping members understand the gospel for themselves by inviting them to search for answers to their questions. President Dieter F. Uchtdorf says that a way to do this is by keeping their faith strong.
Therefore, please, my dear brothers and sisters, my dear friends, first, doubt your doubts before you doubt your faith.
Church President Thomas S. Monson counseled church members to stay active at all times.
We should not need to experience difficulties for us to remember Him, and we should not be driven to humility before giving Him our faith and trust.
Church leaders also spoke specifically to the women of the church, explaining that their role in the gospel is equal yet different to that of men.
Sometimes overly associate the power of the priesthood with men in the church. The priesthood is the power and authority of God, given for the salvation and blessing of all men, women, and children.
Next week, church members will return to their local church buildings for services and say they enjoyed the chance to hear the messages from their leaders they sustain as prophets.
We can learn what our weaknesses are in those areas that we can improve in so that we can be happier.
Church leaders also counseled members to study the talks now that conference is over, giving them additional guidance.
Aubrey, this is a special day for President Monson, isn't that right?
It is. It actually marks what would have been his 65th wedding anniversary. He talked a lot about his wife in conference and how much he missed and loved her. She passed away in May.
Wow, 65 years. That's great. Thanks, Aubrey.
Thanks.
Membership of the LDS Church has just reached 15 million, and it's growing fast. 11 News reporter Shalise Kofed was there when they made that announcement. And Shalise, what was the reaction to it?
Well, everybody that I talked to was extremely excited and motivated to continue to have a hand in the church's impressive growth. Speakers used this news as encouragement for listeners to continue sharing the gospel. Since the organization of the church 183 years ago, church membership increased rapidly, and President Dieter F. Uchtdorf says it is now one of the fastest growing churches in the world. Many of the saints attending conference say they are very happy about reaching the 15 million member mark.
I think that's amazing.
That's a lot of people.
I'm in awe, but not really. I just kind of expect it.
President Thomas S. Monson opened conference with the news. Those in attendance say they noticed the call to share the gospel was a major focus in conference this year.
With Elder Uchtdorf's talk, President Monson's talk, Elder Ballard's talk, it was all really concerning missionary work.
It was just a year ago church leaders lowered the age requirement to serve, and President Monson reported the missionary count has skyrocketed from 58,000 to more than 80,000. Members say they are already seeing a change in their wards and stakes.
My dad was a branch president of a Spanish branch, and just this summer they made it into a ward.
We don't fit in our room now. We have to go to bigger rooms. And if we keep on doing, what the members are supposed to tell everybody about their joy that they feel when they come, we can have the whole chapel full of investigators. But you have to have a lot of faith.
Church leaders say they are happy with the growth they are seeing and encourage members to continue to increase their efforts to build membership.
Now, Shalise, were there any specific suggestions that the general authorities gave to make members better missionaries?
Well, many of the speakers touched on this, but M. Russell Ballard specifically gave a suggestion that members just simply open their mouths and be bold. Sounds like good advice. Thanks a lot, Shalise.
And controversy swirled outside the LDS Conference Center Saturday as church employees denied some LDS women entry to the all-male priesthood session. Members of the feminist group Ordained Women stood in line to get tickets for the meeting, trying to secure what they call equal treatment. A church spokesperson says there is no inequality. The conference center hosted an all-female Relief Society session last week.
Sandy police are asking the man who left the scene of an auto pedestrian accident to turn himself in. Police say he backed into a pregnant woman in a Harmon's parking lot. The victim's husband says she went to the hospital for scrapes, bruises, and a possible concussion. The hospital released her later that day.
Officials say the number of families on food stamps in Utah Valley is falling, while the number of people going to the local food bank is rising. They say underemployment may be the culprit. Some jobs don't pay enough to make ends meet, but disqualify families from receiving food stamps. The Department of Workforce Services says the lowering number of food stamps is a sign of an upward economy. Still to come on your 11 News at noon.
Egyptian violence, fire and gunshots rang out in Egypt when a political crisis erupted.
And a dazzling diamond. Want a sliver of this rock for your wedding ring? It'll cost you. Stay with us. While the government shutdown continues, there is some good news for some furloughed workers in Ogden today. 2,700 employees at Hill Air Force Base are back to work after the Pentagon ordered most of its civilian workers around the country to return. Not everyone is included in that list, meaning some employees are still in their second week now of no work and no pay.
A new poll says most Utahns aren't happy about the government shutting down, while Washington fights over the new federal health care law. The Deseret News and KSL conducted a survey which finds that 56% of those surveyed oppose the shutdown and 37% support it. The poll also shows that the majority blame both parties equally for the shutdown.
And Republicans and Democrats alike are fed up with the government shutdown. But the question of who's to blame depends on who you ask. Ted Rowland spoke to people across the country about how they feel.
From commuters outside Chicago to people unable to go inside the St. Louis Arch, people across the Midwest are furious with lawmakers and more than happy to talk about it.
Well, I think they would have stopped playing silly games like a bunch of little kids and get this thing done and straightened out. Otherwise, comes November or whenever they're up for re-election, don't worry, we're not voting for you.
At 3030 Coffee in Peoria, Illinois, people we talked to had a clear message to send to Washington.
What message would you like to send to lawmakers?
To get their act together and get the Congress back open again. It's ridiculous.
In every city we went, we did find some people who didn't care.
Doesn't bother you?
Nope.
Doesn't affect you?
No, not really.
Okay. We found Democrats who blame Republicans.
They can't get over the fact that President Obama beat them twice, okay? You know, that's all there is to it there.
We also found Republicans who blame Democrats and the president and who support the shutdown.
I'm very much in favor of what they're doing, frankly. As you can see, the world isn't coming to an end.
While there's universal disgust for both parties, many Republicans we talked to are concerned that their party will end up taking a hit.
I think the Republicans will get a lot of blame for it, unfortunately. I don't think it's their fault. I think there's plenty of blame to go around. But I think they'll get most of the blame, yeah.
Ted Rowlands, CNN, Kansas City, Missouri.
No matter who's to blame, most Americans agree they just want Washington to resolve the issue sooner rather than later.
Typhoon Fito collides with China, violence explodes in Egypt as military and the Muslim Brotherhood clash, and a rock in Hong Kong that will knock you off your rocker. Here's a look at news from around the world. Typhoon Fito slammed into eastern China early this morning, forcing the evacuation of hundreds of thousands of people. The massive storm reached speeds of nearly 100 miles an hour, knocking down trees and literally crushing cars. Officials issued a red alert as the storm made its way on land. Fito is the 23rd typhoon to hit China so far this year. Sirens and explosions rocked Egypt as the Muslim Brotherhood supporters clashed with police, resulting in more than 50 deaths and nearly 260 injured. The violence began as Muslim Brotherhood protesters marched around the country, demanding leaders reinstate the old government. The military-led state responded with police and armed forces. Both sides are unwilling to compromise. And if you were planning on buying this flawless 118-carat diamond, you're out of luck. The egg-sized diamond sold for $30.6 million at Sotheby's auction today in Hong Kong. The 8-digit figure beats the previous auction price record for a white diamond by almost $4 million. That would definitely make one good engagement ring. And that's your look at news from around the world. Mark?
Thanks, Randall. That's a big diamond. So, Kathleen, I saw outside some beautiful red leaves. They're really turning now. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, there's still some green on some of the leaves, but that won't last forever. I'll let you know with 11 weather. Well, today it's a very colorful day, as you can see right here. We still have a little bit of green going on, but right behind me here, we do have a nice orange and red and yellow tree going on. And as the season goes on, that'll continue on throughout the rest of them. However, for today, it's 52 degrees out with a humidity of 50%, with the wind blowing about 6 miles an hour. So it's just a little bit breezy. But later tonight, it won't cool down. It'll cool down just a little bit as the sun goes down tonight at 6:48, and it'll be partly cloudy. So if you want to get out there and look at stars, you might not be able to see as many of them, but you can probably still see some. There's only a few clouds in the sky going on tonight. And then as we go throughout the rest of the state, sunny throughout the whole state of Utah today, and not much of a temperature change all the way the lowest temperature being in Price, 64, and the hottest being St. George, 85. So a pretty good mix of there. You don't need to change your wardrobe completely if you're going from Logan down to St. George today. And speaking of southern Utah, today, or actually throughout the rest of the week, the week will start off nice and sunny with highs being in the 80s. And then on Wednesday, watch out for some rain and a little bit of a drop in the temperature, and also a slight chance of rain happening on Thursday as well. And then as we go into Friday, it'll go back. It'll be the clouds will open up and the sun will be nice and bright. However, the temperature will still be a little bit low. And then as far as northern Utah goes, something kind of similar, just not as warm as southern Utah. But the week will start off here in northern Utah being in the 70s and the 60s. And then Wednesday, there's a slight chance of some rain going on with the temperatures dropping into the 50s. And the chance of rain will only increase as the week goes on. So make sure that you get a little bit of that, enjoy the sunshine earlier in the week while we still can, because it'll be rainy throughout the rest of the week.
You know, I went for a drive up the canyon this past weekend, and the leaves were just spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
It was great.
I love them.
Gotta love fall. Thanks, Kathleen.
Thanks. All right, Dave, big game last weekend for BYU up north.
Yeah, I got to head up there for the game, and let me tell you, it was a great night for football. We got some highlights from Logan. We got some other good stuff coming up for you on sports. The Denver Broncos are on fire, a fire that the Cowboys tried to extinguish yesterday. And playoff baseball is a beautiful thing. The Dodgers and the Braves traded blows last night in a critical Game 3. Sports is next. Stay tuned. The last time the BYU football team took the trip up to Logan, they came home with one less coach. The loss to the Aggies in 2010 snapped a 10-game win streak against the in-state foe. It also resulted in defensive coordinator Jamie Hill getting fired. Friday night's game plan for BYU: keep the coaches employed. To Romney Stadium, the student section is ready and excited, but they're not going to like this. The first play of the game, Chucky Keaton's pass finds Kyle Van Noy, who waltzes into the end zone. 7-0, good guys on top. And who says Taysom Hill can't throw? Here he hooks up with wide receiver Mitch Matthews, the first career touchdown for number 10 in white. 17-7 BYU. If it's not broke, why fix it? Hill again to Matthews, 24-7, Cougars on top. And finally in the third quarter, who loves you, baby? Taysom Hill, Mitch Matthews. Cougars win easily in Logan, 31-14. Conference realignment keeps throwing BYU softball curveballs as the team switches conferences yet again. 11 sports reporter Kylie Patton tells us how the Cougars don't let a changeup like this slow them down.
Senior softball player Carly Duckworth has never played 2 seasons in one conference during her time as a Cougar. BYU has competed in 4 different conferences in as many years. But Duckworth says it is nothing the team can't handle.
We come out, work hard, play hard. We come together as a team. It doesn't matter who we're playing.
BYU left the Mountain West after the 2011 season, leaving softball without a home. The West Coast Conference didn't have softball, so the Cougars joined the WAC for one season, then the Pacific Coast Softball Conference the following year. The team may have found a long-term home as they joined the West Coast Conference, which set up softball this season.
Switching conferences every season has had little effect on the Cougars' performance as they have won the title in every conference thus far. And Coach has set the expectation for them to win the conference title this season as well.
He sets us to that standard. I mean, he kind of tells us how it is. Like, this is our program. This is what we expect of you. Find a way to get it done.
We go out to win every game we play in. We don't give up anything that would put us on the wrong end of that win and loss.
The Lady Cougars say they're going for a grand slam, aiming for their 4th consecutive conference title, no matter who they are playing. In Provo, Kylie Patton, 11 Sports.
BYU softball's preseason matchup against Utah Valley University will be tomorrow night at Gail Miller Field. The game will start at 7 o'clock and admission is free. The undefeated Broncos, Mark's favorite team, took their act on the road to Dallas, trailing 14-0 Peyton Manning not so fast Cowboys. That long pass will help my fantasy team. It'll also help the Broncos set up their first touchdown of the game. It was all Denver after falling behind early this play. So tricky, even the cameraman was faked out. The first rushing touchdown for Peyton in 5 years. Tony Romo wants back in on the action, trailing big. An 82-yard touchdown will help. The Cowboys on the comeback trail. They would tie the game at 48. And here in the final minutes, Tony Romo trying to engineer a game-winning drive. Oh boy, it is a game-winning drive for the Broncos because it sets up this chip shot with no time left on the clock. Mark is happy as the Broncos win 50-48. It's the 4th highest scoring game in the history of the NFL. And if you like high scoring, you'll probably like this game too. Playoff baseball in the City of Angels for the first time since 2009, but it's the Braves jumping out to the early 2-0 lead in the top of the first. Carl Crawford in the second, the little guy with the long bomb, putting the Blue Crew up 4-2. Hanley Ramirez for the Dodgers has played 1,095 career games before getting to the playoffs. Hanram making it worth the wait. A bases clearing triple, and the Dodger route is on. Later in the inning, Juan Uribe, why hit a triple when you could hit it over the fence? 10-4, Los Doyas with the lead. Now remember, Carl Crawford hit one into the seats earlier in the game, and now on this pop-up, Crawford in the seats. Man, he's got a great glove. Dodgers win 13-6. They can win the series tonight at Chavez Ravine.
Well, hopefully they do that. I want my Dodgers to win.
So Kathleen likes the Dodgers, you like the Dodgers. I grew up going to Dodger games. Mark?
I'm just happy for the shout out with the Broncos. I appreciate that.
Well, you're welcome.
Thanks, Dave. Still to come on 11 News at noon. Surprise riches. Ever checked your bank account and wished you were a trillionaire? Well, this man's wish came true, even if it was only for a brief moment. We'll be right back.
A Texas man says he couldn't believe his eyes when he went to check his bank account. Reggie Thea says he thought there was a mistake when he opened his online banking statement, and so he checked it again and again. More than 8 times, actually, but his balance still read more than $4 trillion.
I was definitely surprised when I looked at my account and saw that much money in there.
But his good fortune didn't last long. The reason for his sudden wealth was an online banking update glitch, and bankers took the cash back as soon as they realized the mistake.
Man, that money would have been gone before the bank even realized it, if that was me. All right, thanks. That's 11 News at noon for Monday, October 7th.
You can join us anytime on our website, 11news.byu.edu.
Thanks for watching and have a great afternoon. Yeah.